On Friday, the president of the Council of European Union Leaders, Charles Michel, said he was abandoning his plan to run for a seat in the European Parliament, saying he did not want attacks on his decision to distract from his current mission. "I will not be a candidate in the European elections. I will devote all my efforts to my current responsibilities with steadfast determination until they come to an end," said Charles Michel in a lengthy statement posted on his Facebook page. Michel's decision earlier this month to run in June's European Parliament election as a candidate of his Belgian Liberal Party sparked criticism, partly because it meant he would have to leave his current post earlier than planned. It also raised questions about potential conflicts of interest, as he would be running as a party politician in an election campaign, at the same time as acting as chairman of a council made up of leaders from different political groups. Michel also said in a statement, "I will always be a fervent advocate of a Europe that is democratic, strong, united, and master of its own destiny. At the end of this mandate, I will reflect on the nature and direction of my future commitments." Sovereign Poland MP Marcin Warchoł announced the filing of a notice to the prosecutor's office on the possibility of a crime committed by prosecutors, including Jacek Bilewicz. The Bodnars are bringing paralysis to the judiciary, overstepping their authority, and misappropriation of power, so we will file a notice against them. According to a parliamentarian, the takeover of the prosecutor's office is necessary to ensure that no one disturbs the current authorities. The time of reckoning will come. Investigations into the windmill scandal are already underway. Proceedings are being initiated on the attack on the media and on the attack on the prosecutor's office, and that is what they are afraid of. They want to hide under the rug these issues that are inconvenient for them, and that's why they need these disguised people. It is worth pointing out who Adam Bodnar illegally nominated to the National Prosecutor's Office. These are prosecutors Anna Adamiak and Krzysztof Karsznicki, who in 2011 helped Belarusian services arrest opposition activist Alice Białacki there. The activist, winner of the 2022 Nobel Peace Prize, is still in prison today. In turn, prosecutor Artur Kasik, a prosecutor at the Regional Prosecutor's Office in Warsaw, conducted political investigations against democratic opposition activists during the communist era in Poland. Among others, Artur Kasik prosecuted Jacek Szymanderski, spokesman for NSZZ Solidarity of Individual Farmers, in 1986. "I declare that I have not directed any requests to the Prosecutor General for the appointment of prosecutors Andrzej Janecki, Marek Jamrogowicz, Anna Adamiak, and others mentioned in the Prosecutor General's announcement today as prosecutors of the National Prosecutor's Office." The problem is that key decisions are made with the approval of the president. However, this has not happened. There is one constitution, one law, and no resolutions of the same, tweets by Minister Sienkiewicz, and no Bodnar's talks with his German counterpart will change that. The public perceives this situation as something previously unheard of in the Third Republic of Poland, in Polish democracy. The prosecutor's office, as a matter of principle, should be independent and opposed to the authorities, points out Professor Henryk Domański. Here we have a situation where the Minister of Justice is trying to implement, it seems to me, those decisions made by the Prime Minister, by the government at the moment, one that is supposed to subordinate the prosecutor's office to the government, that is, to make the prosecutor's office cease to be that independent factor. The world's largest cruise ship is set for its maiden voyage on Saturday, but environmental groups are concerned that the liquefied natural gas-powered vessel and other giant cruise liners to follow will leak harmful methane into the atmosphere. Royal Caribbean International's Icon of the Seas sets sail from Miami with capacity for 8,000 passengers across 20 decks, taking advantage of the surging popularity of cruises. The ship is built to run on liquefied natural gas, or LNG, which burns more cleanly than traditional marine fuel, but poses greater risks for methane emissions.
So obviously the technology on a new cruise ship keeps evolving, and we as a company are on a continuous journey with all kind of technology. Everything from what you see up in the accommodation, what the guest will see, from cabin automation in terms of ventilation and the light system that we have on board, all the way down to the technical area and the machinery area, where we are the first big cruise ship in the Royal International brand, where we have LNG as our main fuel source, which is quite exciting for us on board to take part of that journey with the new technology.
Environmental groups say methane leakage from the ship's engines is an unacceptable risk to the climate because of its short-term harmful effects.
Using LNG is one way to reduce the amount of carbon dioxide that their ships are emitting. But when you actually look at the implications for the climate, it's actually a step in the wrong direction.
In terms of warming effects, methane is 80 times worse over 20 years than carbon dioxide, making cutting those emissions key to holding down global temperature warming.
When people criticize LNG as a marine fuel, many of the critics sort of suggest, perhaps a little bit disingenuously, that this is a sort of fatal flaw. And I think it's far from it. We have to look at things in a little bit of context here. And certainly when LNG fueled engines were first introduced, and these were the low pressure four strokes which the cruise sector uses, they were introduced to address local emissions.
Cruise ships like Icon of the Seas use low-pressure, dual-fuel engines that leak methane into the atmosphere during the combustion process, known as methane slip, according to industry experts. There are two other engines used on bulk carriers or container ships that emit less methane, but they are too tall to fit in a cruise ship. Royal Caribbean says its new ship is 24% more efficient when it comes to carbon emissions than required by global shipping regulator, the International Maritime Organization.
Methane is coming under more scrutiny. We had the International Maritime Organization, which regulates shipping around the world, come together and over the summer announce their greenhouse gas reduction strategy. It does explicitly include reducing methane emissions, which is wonderful that we're naming it. And it kind of puts the brakes on all of these LNG buildouts. Hopefully the Icon of the Sea will be one of the last LNG ships because methane fracking, these are not climate solutions.
Of the 54 ships on order from January 2024 to December 2028, 63% are expected to be powered by LNG, according to the Cruise Line International Association. Currently, about 6% of the 300 cruise ships sailing are fueled by LNG. Newer cruise ships are being designed to run on traditional marine gas oil, LNG, or alternatives like bio-LNG that only account for a fraction of U.S. fuel consumption. Royal Caribbean will use different fuels as the market evolves, said Nick Rose, the company's vice president of environmental, social, and governance. With glaciers melting in the Alps and ski resorts forced to use snow cannons to satisfy mountain lovers, Italian experts say the impact of climate change is clear to see. The period that just passed was characterized by decidedly high temperatures. We had some short breaks with cold weather, especially in the northern regions of the country, but in general, we ended December 2023 at almost an Italian record, with the month ranked second hottest in the last 200 years, with an anomaly that is over 1.5 degrees, a very high parameter. But for those who make their living selling snow gear and winter clothing, good weather is not always good news. If it is warmer than in previous seasons, outerwear suffers most. Sales of winter clothing move over time, and that is why we asked the Italian General Confederation of Enterprises to shift the winter sales days, and this affects sales negatively, even by 30%, especially on outerwear. January sales are underway in Rome, where due to warmer than normal temperatures, the thickest winter clothes lie on the shelves unsold, with shops paying a price for climate change. The winter season, as far as our country is concerned, started 2 days ago, and not before. November and December were almost warm months that led to no shopping for winter clothing. I went in a few minutes ago to look for shoes, and not to buy jackets or similar garments. Winter clothes are of little use, unless you go to the mountains. In the city, you don't need them, because it's never been cold. If it continues not to be cold, it will become more and more problematic for shopkeepers to sell warm clothes. With spring-like temperatures, some tourists are even wearing shorts as they visit the Colosseum, while those dressed in thick layers are forced to take off their coats to avoid overheating. It's been a long time since I've needed to buy a jacket, and for years I've preferred to wear a sweatshirt because it's warm. It is indeed warm. It's January, but it's hot. I usually wear a jumper or something similar, also because it is never cold in Rome. There is a reduction in winter clothing because it is less cold. With shopkeepers struggling to sell off warm garments, the Italian Confederation of Business and Tourism Operators, Confesercenti, hopes discounts will partially make up for the lost sales of winter garments, with demand for such items down around 50%. The European Union's Copernicus Climate Change Service said last year was the planet's hottest on record by a substantial margin, and likely the world's warmest in the last 100,000 years. Scientists had widely expected the milestone after climate records were repeatedly broken. Since June, every month has been the world's hottest on record, compared with the corresponding month in previous years.